Hey, I'm Chloe and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to be talking to you about how I got into metalsmithing because I remember it was extremely daunting for me, so I thought it could be helpful to break it down a little bit and help others, hopefully. I consider myself almost entirely self-taught. I did actually take a class at the very beginning, but I'll tell you a little bit more on that. So in January of 2023, I signed up for a metalsmithing class and I went and I was so excited. I literally talked about it for a month before it started. My husband was tired of me talking his ear off about it. And then the class started, and it turns out the professor wasn't entirely what I was hoping for. We spent our first 2 classes doing sawing. They were 3-hour classes, so this was 6 hours of sawing, and the class was just a little bit too slow-paced for me. Don't get me wrong, sawing is a really important skill to learn, but I think in an intro class, you can kind of learn other skills and move on and just understand that you have to perfect your sawing skills over time. And then outside of class, I actually made a ring and I wore it to class, and he figuratively, not literally, tore it apart. In front of the whole entire rest of the class, he was just like incredibly rude, incredibly condescending about my piece, and so I never went back. I emailed the school and told them about my experience, and they were actually kind enough to refund me, which was really nice of them because I was technically past the refund date anyway, so I am curious if they've had other issues with this professor in the past. But all of that aside, I didn't want to let that one guy ruin my whole experience for something that I had been so excited for and looking forward to so much. So I started teaching myself. I literally sat down one day and I made a 2-stone ring. I still don't know how I did that because 2-stone rings are like kind of complicated. Like my very first piece was a 2-stone ring. I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I learned through trial and error, and I also learned through Instagram. I had some friends on Instagram that were kind enough to DM me when I posted stories about which problems I was having, and they would help me troubleshoot my issues. There's some things that are really confusing when you first start out, like what gauge bezel wire you should use. At first I was using too thin of a bezel wire, and that was one of the instances where someone on Instagram stories really helped me. I think if you're gonna go the self-taught route, that is incredible. It's also incredible if you take a class. Whichever way feels right for you is awesome to learn. I had, as you know, intended to take a class, and it just unfortunately didn't work out for me, so then I pivoted to the self-taught route. Like I mentioned, I learned through so much trial and error and just hours and hours spent at my bench, hours spent watching YouTube, and hours spent researching on Google. I ordered materials that didn't work out. I still have my sterling silver bezel wire instead of my fine silver bezel wire that I had ordered when I first started out before I pivoted to fine silver. I also made pieces that I just completely had to scrap because they weren't working how I wanted them to, or I didn't have the skill set yet to like embody what I was looking to do. Some things that I learned along the way are that it's really important to persevere. I had so many fails. And so many pieces that just didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. I also think one thing I wasn't great about, but you could try in your self-taught journey, is working with either brass or bronze to start with, because silver is very expensive. So if you mess up in brass or bronze, it isn't as painful as if you mess up in silver. I hope that this channel can be a little bit of a resource for you as you start your silversmithing journey. I really learned so much from watching other YouTube videos, just miscellaneous ones that I found along the way. Networking is also really important. I have definitely reached out to other metalsmiths along the way and asked them about a particular skill that they've posted about, or asked them how they did something that I was interested in. One caveat to that though is that never expect people to give you their time. If I ever DM someone or email someone, I always do it with a like, hey, no pressure at all to answer this, but blah blah. And 9 times out of 10 people are really happy to answer me. I try not to take up too much of their time, so if I just ask them one question and move on, I feel like that's fair, as opposed to going back and forth and expecting them to give me a bunch of things for free. I think overall, just back to the trial and error and really just spending so much time in your studio and getting used to your different tools and how they work and how to solder and how to saw are so important. I can't even tell you how many hours I spent at my bench during the first month of learning metalsmithing. It was so fun, and I was just really enjoying myself, even through the frustrations. I literally would get off work and metalsmith from like 5 to 9 every single day after work because I was just having so much fun learning the hobby. If you have any particular questions about how I learned things or my journey to starting my business, I would love to hear them. Feel free to drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them, whether in a comment or in a future video. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, it would help my channel grow so much if you could like and subscribe down below, and I will see you for the next one.